This program is brought to you by SoundsTrue.com. At SoundsTrue.com, you can find hundreds of downloadable audio learning programs, plus books, music, videos, and online courses and events. We also host the annual Wake Up Festival, a 5-day experience of transformation, held in August of each year in the beautiful Rocky Mountains. You can also join our free direct access membership program and read transcripts of all of the Insights at the Edge podcasts and search our collection of podcasts with now more than 100 episodes available. At SoundsTrue.com, we think of ourselves as a trusted partner on the spiritual journey, offering diverse, in-depth, and life-changing wisdom. SoundsTrue.com. Many voices, one journey. You're listening to Insights at the Edge. Today my guest is Ram Dass. Ram Dass, whose name means servant of God, was originally known as Richard Alpert. Ram Dass received his PhD in psychology from Stanford University and has taught at Harvard, Stanford, and the University of California. He began his studies in consciousness research with Timothy Leary at Harvard University in the 1960s, and today is a respected spokesman on the integration of Western culture with Eastern philosophies. Ram Dass is the author of the classic book Be Here Now and the landmark books Grist for the Mill and How Can I Help? With Sounds True, Ram Dass has created several audio learning programs, including Conscious Aging, Experiments in Truth, and a new release, Love, Service, Devotion, and the Ultimate Surrender, Ram Dass on the Bhagavad Gita, a program which is a 10-session audio program recorded in the late 1970s at Naropa University, a program that has been edited and digitally remastered, in which Ram Dass illuminates the Bhagavad Gita's essential verses with insights spanning many traditions. In this episode of Insights at the Edge, Ram Dass and I spoke about his experience of the I, or the self. We also talked about different planes of consciousness, including his experience of the ego, the individual soul, and the Atman, which he calls the mega-soul. We also talked about his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, known as Maharaji, and Ram Dass's experience of Maharaji living inside of him as a sense of presence. Here's my very moving and meaningful conversation with Ram Dass, which took place at a distance with Ram Dass speaking from his home in Maui. As many of our listeners know, Ram Dass, you suffered an almost life-threatening stroke in 1997. And I know you now refer to this stroke as if you were, quote-unquote, stroked by grace. And just here at the beginning of our conversation, if you could talk some about how you understand being, quote-unquote, stroked by grace. How is this grace?
Well, when I first woke up in the hospital, and the people around me had long faces and looked frightened. And so I looked up at a picture of my guru on the wall, and I said, You've given me your grace, and then this stroke, and he didn't change one bit. And I wondered whether this was grace. So I then, Nikki Lemley's movie, it went to India, and it was fierce grace for the stroke, and Sidima, who is the woman that was take over my guru's temples, she said, Ramdas, you can't imagine that Maharaji would give you a stroke. And she says, the way I see it is the stroke is a natural phenomenon, and then your reactions to it was the grace, because I reacted to the stroke as if it were grace. The grace of the stroke, it changed my life. Like, for example, I had a book in the past called How Can I Help?, which was a very good book. But now, I guess, I'd say the title would be, How Can You Help Me? Because I've now gotten to the dependency of sickness, and I've come to value it. And when I'm dependent on such people around me, that we have our roles. I have my role as a patient, have their role as caregiver, and I think we both see ourselves as souls, and the interaction does get spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, I was at a crossing of a street in my wheelchair, and a couple came up and said, "Can we help you to cross the street?" And they felt good for that, and I felt good for that, and it was a rather pleasing interaction. Now, the other thing was I couldn't talk for a while, and that was good. I talk all the time, but to be talking not much, boy, was it wonderful. And then later on, as I got called upon to talk and give lectures, the silence the silence where I couldn't recall the word, the audience loved those silences. Gives them a chance to cogitate or to meditate. And I tell them that I'm going to be looking for a word, but they shouldn't pity me, because that'll just waste the time for them. So I guess I think that my body got the stroke, and I am in the body, and there's no reason to think that I had a stroke. My body had a stroke. And it's interesting.
If your body had a stroke, what is your experience currently of the quote-unquote I? What is your experience of I, Ram Dass?
I'm consciousness. I'm not in time or space. And I'm down in my heart, where my spiritual heart is loving awareness. And then if somebody says, "Who are you?" I say, "Ram Dass." But I say to myself, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. That's who I am.
As I'm listening to you, Ram Dass, I'm hearing a bird in the background. I know you're in Maui. Is that correct? Is that the sound of a bird?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, it is a bird.
I'm curious about something. You mentioned that you say to people who are listening to you at your lectures to use the space in your speech as an opportunity for meditation, contemplation, tuning in to this loving awareness. What I'm curious about in terms of your experience is here before your stroke, you were one of the master orators of our time, one of the most gifted, golden-tongued speakers I had ever recorded and met. And here now, as you speak, your words come out slowly. It's obviously much harder to weave together a complex story with lots of different threads of meaning. And I'm curious what that experience is like for you. Do you feel frustrated, or do you get angry, or what's that experience like for you as you explain what you're feeling inside?
I don't get frustrated. It just means that I go tangentially, and it's like I have a closed closet of words, and then I have a concept. And the concept, I go to the closed closet. Shall I wear red, or shall I wear purple? And it takes me a little time to get the right, there I am, the right word. But it's much better because the time is it's a contemplative or meditative time that I look in my heart for what the best phrase for my concept, and it's fascinating. It's like an inner dialogue, and the one thing is that I may take too long before you will get frustrated. But no, this aphasia, speech, wow, just these silences. Just these silences.
Do you feel that you have a different appreciation of the nature of consciousness after your stroke than you did before your stroke?
I don't think so. Because before the stroke, I had Maharaji, and before Maharaji, I had psychedelics, and they gave me clear indication about what consciousness is. So I'm probably not. No, I don't think I have any, except I separate myself from my body. Because the stroke is an external affair. It's not an internal one. It's like the stroke is is in time, and I am infinite. My universe, my soul universe is not in time or space.
Can you help me understand, Ram Dass, what you mean by your soul, what you are referring to when you refer to the soul?
If you leave this plane of consciousness, which the things and ego and thoughts, the next plane of consciousness is a spiritual one, and this is the plane of soul. Now, my soul has been through many, many incarnations, and it has gone from one into another to another to another. And then it has come into this incarnation, which has an ego and a body and parents and all kinds of things, and a body. And then if you go beyond that, you come to the Hindus call it the Atman. It's where you come to the big soul. The big soul, the God, Guru, and self are no other than one. That's where my Guru is. Now, as a soul, I witness the incarnation. Soul has karma that it has gotten from past lives. Soul would be individual, and the Atman is not individual. The Atman is the soul of the universe. And generally we think of the ego as me or I, and that's a thought. It's who we think we are in the head. And then when we dig deep enough, through deep enough consciousness, or through the spiritual way, what then we come to the real self, the real self. And that's either the soul or the mega soul, the soul. I see death as a ceremony in which the ego turns into the soul, and that identifies with ego and to the soul. And then after death, you get to soul land. That's my the soul, of course, has no time and space. So soul land is a plane of consciousness which has no time or space. But we project into it. We project it from our egos. We project it as heaven or hell or forests or schools or then after you get the soul land with my guru, we will choose my next incarnation.